Today, we continue a never-ending journey to bridge the meaning of those words with the realities of our time. For history tells us that while these truths may be self-evident, they've never been self-executed. That while freedom is a gift from God, it must be secured by His people here on the earth. The patriots of 1776 did not fight to replace the tyranny of the king with the privileges of a few or the rule of a mob. They gave to us a republic, a government of, and by, and for the people, entrusting each generation to keep safe our founding creed. Through blood drawn by lash and blood drawn by sword, we learned that no union found on the principles of liberty and equality could survive half slave and half free. We made ourselves anew and vowed to move forward together. For the American people can no more meet the demands of today's world by acting alone. Then American soldiers can have met the forces of fascism or communism with muskets and militias. No single person can train all the math and science teachers we'll need to equip our children for the future, or build the roads and networks and research labs that will bring new jobs and businesses to our shores. Now, more than ever, we must do things together as one nation and one people. Let each of us now embrace, with solemn duty and awesome joy, what is our lasting birthright. With common effort and common purpose, with passion and dedication, let us answer the call of history and carry into an uncertain future that precious light of freedom. Thank you. God bless you, and may He forever bless these United States of America.
Hey Sugarfoot, how you doing? How you doing, sweetie? Get it out now before we get started. Shout outs to my man Shaq up front showing love to Cavs. My man LeBron in the house. Shout out to your boy LeBron. It's a good year for y'all. A good year for y'all. Alright, look, y'all got me up here for a while, about an hour. I'm gonna be up here about an hour. Now this time y'all gonna have to hear a lot of stuff. I'm not gonna lie to y'all, don't judge me. I don't want anybody judging me. I love to be honest on stage, man. I talk about things I know, my family, my kids. I love to talk about my baby, a little boy and a little girl. Now I used to talk about my son being a dumb baby. I used to. No, I'm serious, I did. I thought my baby was a dumb baby, but to realize he's not a dumb baby. He just does dumb things. Like I don't like the way my son throws his tantrum. You know, when a baby throws a tantrum, he's supposed to fall out, cry, roll on the floor. That's a tantrum. It's not a joke. This is for real. This is what my son does when he gets mad. I'm not lying. Don't make me laugh. I can't say anything. I got to wait till he's finished explaining to people what happened. He got an attitude because he can't get no candy. The baby is weird, man. When he gets mad, he gets in the oven. I swear to God. He gets in the oven, gets an attitude with me when I get him out. Well, get your little stuff out the oven. Get your butt out the oven. When I says that, he goes, hot, hot. I love him to death, though, man. Now, my daughter's a different ball game. My daughter's spoiled, man. About to be 5, spoiled. I'm not going to lie, I spoil her. That's what I'm supposed to do. She's at that age now, though, where she knows. Like, she knows how to play me and her mom against each other. She knows how to make us fight.
Score and 7 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation or any nation so conceived and so dedicated can long endure. We are met in a great battlefield of that war. We have come to dedicate a portion of that field as a final resting place for those who here gave their lives that that nation might live. It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this. But in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hollow this ground. The brave men, living and dead, who struggled here have consecrated it far above our poor power to add or detract. The world will little note nor long remember what we say here, but it can never forget what they did here. It is for us, the living, rather to be dedicated here to the unfinished work which they who fought here have thus far so nobly advanced. It is rather for us to be here dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead we take increased devotion to the cause for which they gave the last full measure of devotion. That we were highly resolved that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation under God shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people shall not perish from the earth.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much. I am thrilled to be here with all of you today to celebrate. I want to first thank Pastor Andy Stanley for that very kind introduction and for his devoted leadership here at North Point Community Church. I also want to recognize Reverend Cynthia Hill from the Ray of Hope Christian Church for her leadership and for co-hosting today's celebration. Thanks also to George's wonderful First Lady, Miss Sandra Deal, and to all the elected officials here for joining us today. And of course, I want to thank all the musicians, singers, and everyone else who graced us with their talent earlier this afternoon. Let's give them all another round of applause. Now, we're not just here today to celebrate the first anniversary of a campaign to solve the problem of childhood obesity. And a generation, we're here to celebrate a new conversation in this country about the health and well-being of our children. It's a conversation about what our children eat and how they move. It's about how they feel and how they feel about themselves. And it's about what that means, just not for their physical and emotional health, but for their success in school and life. And over the past year, we're seeing the first signs of fundamental shift in how we live and eat. We've seen changes at every level of our society, from classrooms to boardrooms to the halls of Congress. And there's a reason I wanted to hold this celebration here at North Point Community Church. There's a reason I want to talk with all of you, parents from all different backgrounds with kids all different ages. And that's because these changes are happening for one simple reason, because you asked for them. You see, that's really what Let's Move is all about. That's how it all started, by listening to parents just like you, by working to meet your need, by working to fulfill your hope and dreams for your kids.
Love, ladies and gentlemen, is the human family's most precious legacy. It's righteous because it's a golden inheritance and is a treasure that is handed down from one generation to another. Previous ages may not have had the wealth we enjoy today. Their houses may have lacked electricity, and they squeezed their many kids into small homes without central heating. But those homes had no darkness, nor were they cold. They were lit bright with the glow of love, and they were warmed snugly by the very heat of the human heart. As you all know, our two countries broke from each other over what Thomas Jefferson referred as certain inalienable rights. And while we Americans and British might dispute the justice of his claims, what has never been in dispute is that children have certain inalienable rights, and gradual erosions of those rights has led to scores of children worldwide being denied the joys of security of childhood. I would therefore like to propose tonight that we install in every home a children's universal bill of rights, the tenets of which are 1. The right to be loved without having to earn it. 2. The right to be protected without having to deserve it. 3. The right to feel valuable even if you came into the world with nothing. 4. The right to be listened to without having to be interesting. 5. The right to be read a bedtime story without having to compete with the evening news. 6. The right to an education without having to dodge bullets at schools. 7. The right to be thought of as adorable even if you have a face that only a mother could love. Friends, the foundation of all human knowledge, the being of human consciousness, must be that each and every one of us is an object of love. Before you know if you have red hair or brown, before you know if you are black or white, before you know of what religion you are a part of, you have to know that you are loved.
Thank you for coming here to join us in our event. I wanted to talk a little bit about how sometimes innovation happens slowly, but it is still important. Probably many of you have heard of Moore's Law. It basically said that we double the transistor count on chip every 18 months. It has changed over time, but basically it's an exponential improvement in computing performance. Google really benefited from that. When we were in grad school doing data mining experiments, because of the CPU power, disk capacity, memory capacity, these basic hardware components improving so quickly, we were able to do what would have been thought impossible just a few years before in terms of indexing and making searchable very vast amounts of information on relatively small computing resources. So in that case, a well-known improvement in technology was able to drive new apps. Sometimes improvements aren't as broadly visible, but they bring about significant change. In that vein, I want to talk today about clean energy. Most of the energy sources we produce carbon or nuclear waste. There's a small amount of clean energy, which is mostly hydropower, and then a small amount of wind and solar. Hydropower, we mostly use up in many parts of the world. So the parts that might be scalable are wind and solar. And I want to talk a little bit about those. These are the ones that emit no carbon, solar, and wind. And at least in theory, according to a number of studies, that's good for the environment. If you look at the amount of capital cost you need to put in some of these systems, you can see that solar is quite expensive still, both photovoltaically and thermally. But as you go down, on the bottom there is wind. And wind is now within the band of fossil fuels like natural gas generators and things like that. Here is the cost percentage breakdown for a wind project, like 5 megawatts. You can see most of the cost is actually the wind turbine. If you can lower the cost and increase the output of the wind turbines over time, just the better engineering, larger scale, you can lower the cost. In fact, that's what has happened. So for the first time in history, wind power actually makes a lot of sense. You can use only wind power. You can't only use wind power because you want to do some things that require electricity, not wind. But I think wind power can take up a good portion of energy that the world needs. And if you depreciate the capital cost, it works out in terms
per kilowatt hours to be very competitive with the existing utilities. People that I run into at conferences say they're investing in wind, not out of altruistic intent for the environment. They think, I made this great investment. I'm going to make this back in so many years. Probably some of them you have read about. Berkshire Hathaway's investment in the really big 300 megawatt project in the Midwest. I have friends in Europe who have said that they put up so many tens of megawatts that it's made better business because there are some incentives that the government puts in place. But the prices are actually getting so low that those incentives aren't even necessary. There is a consequence. The DOE, Department of Energy, which is probably very conservative, shows a massive shoot up in the amount of wind power that's available. And the use of wind power shot up like this because the cost factors coming down. Some people complain wind turbines are the eyesores. I think they're pretty cool looking. I think they'll continue to go up, perhaps with improved technologies that look different. But at the same time, solar costs are pretty high up there. Obviously because of the capital cost. Printing solar cells. It's an expensive progress. It takes energy in its own right. But it's actually also following a trajectory even though it's starting up high. It's dropping. And I know companies in the area that are doing research. They claim they'll produce multiple companies that have different technologies. Thin films, doing clever things by concentrating sunlight better. So that'll also make a big difference in the developing world. Because these things scale down in addition to scaling up. But you can make village-sized solar cells, solar power generators. I want to tell you a success story that hasn't completely finished yet. Another example of a somewhat slow process by Moore's Law standards, but still significant. And that's in battery technology. Lead-acid batteries have been around forever, but the watt hours you get per kilogram in a cage for 30 or 40 years. Liquid metal hydrates more than 20 years or so. Lithium ions are relatively more recent, and there have been tremendous progress in battery technology. When you look at issues of clean energy for transportation, you need a way to store the energy. If that's not going to be gasoline, batteries are a pretty good way to go. I'm assuming we're going to rely on fuel cells ignores this statement. Now we have lithium ion batteries, whereas a car called TO, recent versions which can go up to 0 to 60 even faster than 4 seconds. It'll go 300 miles on a charge. It'll beat almost any other car out there in a 0 to 60 drag race. And the reason these things are possible because the basic technology has finally crossed the threshold. And I'm excited to see both what we can do to help these technologies cross these thresholds, as well as recognize when they have and see what new applications are possible. Just like Moore's Law made Google possible today. Thank you very much.
All over the world today, people are gathering love vigils to celebrate the life of a man that taught the world how to love. People may be wondering why there's such an emotional outburst, but you have to understand the journey of Michael to understand what he meant to all of us. For these that see is the Jackson family, a mother and a father with 9 children that rose from a working class family in Gary, Indiana. They had nothing but a dream. No one believed in those days that this kind of dream could come true, but they kept on believing, and Michael never let the world turn him around from his dreams. I first met Michael around the 1970 Black Expo, Chicago, Illinois. Reverend Jesse Jackson, who stood by this family till now, and from that day, as a cute kid to his moment, he never gave up dreaming. It was that dream that changed culture all over the world. When Michael started, it was a different world, but because Michael kept going, because he didn't accept limitations, because he refused to let people decide his boundaries, he opened up the whole world.
In the music world, he put on one glove, pulled his pants up, and broke down the color curtain where now our videos are shown, and magazines put us on the cover. It was Michael Jackson that brought blacks, whites, Asians, and Latinos together. It was Michael Jackson that made us sing We Are the World and feed the hungry long before Live Aid.
People must learn to hate, and if they can learn to hate, they can be taught to love. For love comes more naturally to the human heart than its opposite. Man's goodness is a flame that can be hidden but never explained. I cannot imagine that the future I was walking toward could compare in any way to the past that I was leaving behind. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. Freedom is indivisible. The chains on any of my people were the chains on all of them. The chains on all of my people were the chains on me. A leader like a shepherd, he stays behind the flock, letting the most nimble go out ahead, whereupon the others follow, not realizing that all along they are being directed from behind. A nation that could be judged by how it treats its highest citizens, but its lowest ones.